The Light and the River, a retelling of John. Close your eyes now. Let your shoulders drop and your breathing slow down. Before we begin, imagine a vast, comforting stillness, a place where there is no rush, no noise, only a deep and abiding peace. Our story begins not on the earth, but in that very stillness, in the quiet moments before the universe began. In the beginning, there was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was there in the very beginning, wrapped in the timeless presence of the divine. Everything you see, the mountains, the oceans, the stars, was made through him. Without him, nothing exists. In him was life itself, a pure, vibrant energy that became the light of all humanity. Imagine that light now. It is a warm, golden glow shining in the darkness. And no matter how dark the night becomes, the darkness has never and will never overcome it. Now let the scene shift gently. Feel the ground beneath your feet change from the abstract cosmos to the soft, dusty earth of the wilderness. The air here is warm, smelling of dry grass and flowing water. A man named John appeared in this wilderness, sent by God. He wasn't the light himself, but like a reflection on the water, he came to reflect that true light, the light that gives clarity to everyone coming into the world. He stood by the river speaking of someone greater. "This is the one I told you about," he would say, his voice carrying over the rippling water. "The one coming after me is greater than I am, because he existed long before me." From the fullness of this coming King, we have all received grace. One wave of kindness rolling in after another, just like the river currents. One day, religious leaders from the city came to the riverbank. The sun was high and the air was still. They asked John, "Who are you? Are you the Messiah?" John answered simply without hesitation, "I am not the Christ." "Are you Elijah?" they asked. "I am not," he said softly. "Are you the prophet?" "No." They pressed him, needing an answer to take back to the city. "Who are you then? What do you say about yourself?" John looked out at the wild, open landscape and replied, quoting an ancient song, "I am the voice of one calling out in the wilderness, make the Lord's path straight." They asked him, "If you aren't the Messiah, why do you baptize people in this river?" John gestured to the water. "I baptize with water," he explained, "but among you stands someone you do not yet know. He comes after me, but he is so important that I am not even worthy to untie the straps of his sandals." The sun set and rose again. The next day the air was fresh and cool. John looked up and saw Jesus walking toward him. The movement was calm, steady. John's eyes widened. "Look," he said to those around him, "there is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. This is the one I spoke of. I didn't know him then, but I came here to wash people with water so that he might be revealed." John remembered a moment of profound peace he had witnessed earlier. He told the crowd, "I saw the Spirit coming down from heaven, gentle as a dove, and it rested on him. I have seen it, and I testify that this is the Son of God." Another day passed. The river continued its gentle, rhythmic flow. It was late afternoon, around 4 o'clock, the time of day when the harsh heat begins to fade into a golden evening. John was standing with two of his friends, Andrew and another disciple. Jesus walked by them, quietly passing through the scene. John whispered, "Look, the Lamb of God." Hearing this, the two friends turned and began to follow Jesus. They walked a few paces behind him, the sound of their sandals crunching softly on the path. Jesus stopped. He turned around, his expression open and kind. "What are you looking for?" Jesus asked them. They replied respectfully, "Rabbi, where are you staying?" Jesus smiled, an invitation in his eyes. "Come and see," he said. So they went with him. They saw the simple place where he was staying, and because the evening was drawing in, they stayed with him for the rest of the day. Imagine sitting there with them as the sky turned from blue to purple, listening to his voice in the quiet of the twilight. Andrew, filled with a quiet joy, went to find his brother Simon. "We have found the Messiah," he told him. He brought Simon to Jesus. Jesus looked at Simon intently, seeing not just who he was, but who he would become. "You are Simon, son of John," Jesus said warmly. "You will be called Cephas." This means Peter or rock. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found a man named Philip and spoke two simple words that would change his life. "Now, follow me." Philip, his heart light, went to find his friend Nathanael. Nathanael was resting under a fig tree, enjoying the cool shade of its broad green leaves. "We have found the one Moses wrote about," Philip exclaimed, "Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nathanael was skeptical. "Nazareth?" he asked. "Can anything good come from there?" Philip didn't argue. He just smiled, echoing the invitation Jesus had given earlier. "Come and see." As Nathanael walked toward him, Jesus watched him approach. "Here is a true Israelite," Jesus said, "in whom there is nothing false." Nathanael was surprised. "How do you know me?" Jesus' voice was soft, knowing. "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you." Nathanael stopped. He realized that in the quiet of the shade, when he thought he was alone with his thoughts, he had been seen and known. "Rabbi," Nathanael breathed, "you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus replied, "You believe because I told you. I saw you under the fig tree. You will see greater things than that." He looked at them all, his promise hanging in the air like the first star of the evening. "I tell you the truth," Jesus said gently. "You will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." And with that promise of a connection between heaven and earth, let your mind rest. The same light that shone in the beginning, the same peace that rested under the fig tree, is here now. The celebration and the sanctuary. Take a deep breath. Feel the weight of your body settling into the mattress as if you are sinking into a soft cloud. The air around you is cool and still, creating a perfect space for rest. Our story continues on the third day. We leave the quiet river banks and travel toward the hills of Galilee to a small sun-drenched village called Cana. The air in Cana is thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and roasting grain. There is a wedding taking place, a celebration of life and love. Imagine the soft rhythmic sounds of a tambourine in the distance and the low hum of joyful conversation. Jesus is there, along with his mother Mary and his new friends. The sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long golden shadows across the stone floors of the courtyard. In the midst of the laughter, a quiet shadow of worry passes over the hosts. The wine, the symbol of their hospitality, has run out. Mary, noticing the tension in the eyes of the servants, leans toward Jesus. Her voice is a gentle whisper amidst the festive noise. "They have no wine," she says simply. Jesus looks at her with a calm, steady gaze. His voice is soft, reassuring, yet filled with a mysterious depth. "My dear mother," he says, "why do you bring this to me? My time to act has not yet fully arrived." But Mary, knowing the quiet power within him, simply turns to the servants. Her voice is like a soothing breeze. "Whatever he tells you to do, just do it." Nearby, standing in the cool shade of the wall, are 6 large stone water jars. They are heavy and cold to the touch, smoothed by years of use. Jesus gestures toward them. "Fill the jars with water," he says calmly. The servants begin their work, the sound of water splashing into the deep stone vessels, creating a rhythmic, echoing melody. They fill them all the way to the brim until the water is still and clear. "Now," Jesus says with a small, knowing smile, "draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." The master of the banquet takes a sip. He doesn't know where the liquid came from, but as it touches his lips, he tastes something extraordinary, rich, vibrant, and full of life. He calls the bridegroom over, his voice filled with pleasant surprise. "Usually," he says, "people serve the best wine first and keep the cheaper wine for later. But you have kept the very best until now." This was the first sign, a quiet miracle in a village home, turning a moment of lack into a moment of abundance. His disciples feel a deep sense of peace and belief settle into their hearts, like the cool evening settling over the hills. The scene shifts now. The celebration in Cana fades into a memory of golden light as Jesus travels down to the seaside town of Capernaum for a few days of rest. Feel the shift in the air, from the dry hills to the soft, humid breeze of the Sea of Galilee. But soon it is time to travel to the great city of Jerusalem for the Passover. Imagine the grand temple, a magnificent structure of white stone and gold, rising up against the blue sky. But as Jesus enters the outer courts, the atmosphere is not one of prayer, but of noise and chaos. The air is filled with the lowing of cattle, the bleating of sheep, and the clinking of coins as money changers shout across the courtyard. A different kind of energy rises in Jesus, not of anger, but of a deep, protective love for his Father's house. He weaves together a cord of ropes and, with a firm but steady hand, clears the space. He overturns the tables, the coins scattering across the stone floor with a bright, ringing sound that eventually fades into silence. To those selling the doves, his voice is firm but clear. "Take these things out of here. Do not turn my Father's house into a marketplace." The people are moved by his passion. The leaders ask him, "What sign can you show us to prove you have the authority to do this?" Jesus answers them with a mystery, his voice echoing in the vast stone courtyard. "Destroy this temple," he says, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The leaders are confused. "It took 46 years to build this temple," they say. "How can you raise it in 3 days?" But Jesus is speaking of a different temple, the temple of his own body, the place where heaven and earth truly meet. Many years later, his friends would remember these words and find great comfort in them. As night falls over Jerusalem, the city grows quiet. The torches flicker low along the stone walls. Many people in the city have seen the signs Jesus performed, and they begin to trust in him. But Jesus knows the hearts of everyone. He understands the depths of human thoughts and the quiet whispers of the soul. He knows the need for rest, the need for peace, and the need for a light that never goes out. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine that same quiet authority and deep peace watching over you. The one who turned water into wine and spoke of the temple of the heart is the same light that keeps the darkness at bay. The stars are out now, hanging silently over the hills of Galilee and the towers of Jerusalem. Everything is as it should be. You are safe. You are known. You are at rest. The night visitor and the living wind. Allow your eyes to grow heavy now. Imagine the deep blue of a midnight sky over Jerusalem. The city is quiet. The bustling sounds of the marketplace have faded into a soft, rhythmic silence. A cool breeze drifts through the narrow stone streets, carrying the faint scent of olive trees and parched earth. In the stillness of this night, a man named Nicodemus moves quietly through the shadows. He is a respected leader, a man of great learning, yet his heart is restless with questions. He seeks out Jesus under the cover of the stars, where the world is calm and honest conversation can breathe. He finds Jesus in a quiet place, perhaps a courtyard where the moonlight bathes the stone in silver. Nicodemus speaks softly, his voice full of genuine wonder. "Teacher," he says, "we all know you have come from God. No one could perform the beautiful healing signs you do unless God was truly with them." Jesus looks at him with eyes that seem to reflect the depth of the night sky. His voice is calm and steady, like a slow-moving river. "I tell you the truth, Nicodemus," Jesus says, "unless a person is born anew, born from above, they cannot truly see or understand the kingdom of God." Nicodemus leans in, puzzled. How can a man be born when he is already old? Can he return to his mother's womb a second time? Jesus smiles gently, the kind of smile that puts a restless mind at ease. "I am speaking of a different kind of birth. To enter God's kingdom, you must be born of water and of the Spirit. What is born of the physical world is physical, but what is born of the Spirit is spirit." He gestures toward the night air, where a sudden breeze rustles the leaves of a nearby tree. "Do not be surprised that I told you that you must be born again. Think of the wind. It blows wherever it wants to. You can hear the soft sound of its movement, but you don't know exactly where it comes from or where it is going. That is how it is with everyone born of the Spirit. It is a gentle, mysterious movement of the heart." Nicodemus whispers into the darkness, "How can these things be possible?" Jesus speaks to him then of heavenly things, his voice a soothing melody in the quiet courtyard. He tells him that just as the wind moves unseen, God's love moves through the world to bring life. God loved the world so dearly, Jesus explains, that he gave his only Son. He didn't do this to judge the world or to point out its flaws, but so that through him the world might be healed and saved. Anyone who trusts in this love will find a life that never ends, a life that is eternal and deep. He speaks of the light that has come into the darkness, just as you might feel comfort when a small lamp is lit in a dark room. Jesus describes himself as a light that invites people to come out of the shadows and live in the warmth of the truth. The scene shifts gently away from the stone walls of Jerusalem. We travel back toward the countryside near the waters of the Jordan. The sound of the wind in the trees blends with the rhythmic sound of flowing water. John the Baptist is there, standing by the river. His disciples come to him, worried because they see more and more people going to follow Jesus. They feel a sense of competition, a need to protect their teacher's status. But John's response is like a deep, exhaling breath of relief. He isn't jealous. He is joyful. A person can only receive what heaven gives them, John says with a peaceful smile. I told you before, I am not the Christ. I am only the one sent to prepare the way for him. He uses a beautiful image to explain his heart. Imagine a wedding, he says softly. The one who has the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom stands nearby listening. When he hears the bridegroom's voice, he is overcome with joy. That is my joy today. It is complete. Then he says the words that carry a perfect weight for the end of the day. He must increase, but I must decrease. Let those words settle over you like a warm blanket. He must increase, but I must decrease. Imagine letting go of all the worries of the day, all the musts and shoulds of your own efforts. Let them decrease. Let them fade into the background like the retreating tide. In their place, imagine the Spirit, that gentle, mysterious wind, increasing within you, bringing a peace that you don't have to work for. The Father loves the Son and has placed everything in his hands. And those hands are kind. They are steady. You are resting in that same care now. The night is deep, the wind is soft, the light is within you. The well in the desert and the distant healing. Now let your body become even heavier, as if you are gently pressing into the earth. Imagine the heat of a high noon sun, but you are tucked away in the cool, deep shade of a stone archway. The air is dry and shimmering, but where you are, it is perfectly still. Jesus was traveling from the south toward the hills of Galilee. The road was long, dusty, and winding. As the sun reached its highest point, the 6th hour, he came to a parcel of land steeped in history near the town of Sychar. Here lay Jacob's well. Imagine the scene, the ancient weathered stones of the well, cool to the touch despite the midday heat. Jesus, weary from the miles he had walked, sat down by the well's edge. His disciples had headed into the town to find food, leaving him in the profound silence of the desert noon. The silence was broken by the soft, rhythmic sound of sandals on the parched earth. A woman from Samaria approached, carrying a heavy water jar. She came at this hour to avoid the crowds, seeking the same quiet Jesus was resting in. As she lowered her jar, Jesus spoke. His voice was not demanding, but gentle, like a shared secret. "Would you give me a drink of water?" he asked. The woman paused, surprised. "How is it," she asked, "that you, a Jewish man, ask for a drink from me? We are strangers to one another. Our people do not even speak." Jesus looked at her with a gaze that seemed to see past the heat and the dust, straight into her soul. "If you only knew the gift God has for you," he said softly, "and if you knew who was asking you for a drink, you would have asked him instead, and he would have given you living water." She looked at the deep, dark mouth of the well. "Sir, you have no bucket, and this well is deep. Where would you get this living water?" Jesus gestured to the ancient well. "Everyone who drinks this water will grow thirsty again. It is the way of the world. But the water I give becomes a spring within a person, a bubbling fountain of life that never runs dry." "Sir," the woman whispered, "give me this water." As they spoke, Jesus revealed that he knew her life, the joys, the heartbreaks, and the many husbands she had known. He didn't speak with judgment, but with a clarity that made her feel truly seen for the first time. They talked of spirit and truth, of how God isn't found only on a specific mountain or in a certain building, but in the quiet, honest places of the heart. "I know the Messiah is coming," she said, her voice filled with a long-held hope. Jesus leaned toward her. "I am he," he said, "the one speaking to you right now." In her excitement, she forgot her water jar. She left it there by the well and ran back to the city, her heart light and her breath coming fast. "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did," she told the people. And because of her joy, the whole town began to stream out toward the well, like a river flowing through the desert. Later, as the sun began to settle and the air turned a dusty lavender, the scene shifted back to the green hills of Galilee. Jesus returned to Cana, the place of the wedding feast. A nobleman from the city of Capernaum heard he was there. This man's heart was heavy with a different kind of exhaustion. His young son was fading away, burning with a fever. He traveled miles to find Jesus, falling at his feet. "Sir," the father pleaded, his voice breaking, "please come down to my house before my child dies." Jesus looked at the man's tired, anxious face. He didn't move to gather his things. He didn't start the journey. Instead, he simply spoke a word of peace. "Go your way," Jesus said with absolute calm. "Your son lives." The man looked into Jesus' eyes, and in that moment, the weight of the world lifted from his shoulders. He believed. He turned around and began the long walk home in the twilight, no longer rushing, but resting in the word he had been given. The next day, as he walked, his servants met him on the road. Their faces were shining. "Your son is alive," they cried. "What time did he get better?" the father asked. "Yesterday, at the 7th hour," they replied. "The fever just left him." The father realized that it was the exact moment Jesus had said, "Your son lives." As you prepare for sleep, think of that distance the healing traveled across the hills, through the air, without Jesus even being there. It reminds us that peace doesn't require us to go anywhere or do anything. It finds us wherever we are. Whether you are by a well in the desert or in a quiet room in the evening, the living water is there, bubbling up quietly within you. The fever of the day's worries has left. The journey is over for today. The stars are high over Galilee. The desert is cool, the well is still. You are safe, you are healed, you can rest. The quiet pool and the rhythm of life. As you settle deeper into your pillow, imagine the world outside slowing down to a crawl. The air is mild and fragrant, and a sense of profound stillness begins to wrap around you like a soft, heavy cloak. Our story moves to Jerusalem near the Sheep Gate. Imagine a place of cool stone and deep shadows, where 5 covered porches surround a quiet, emerald-colored pool called Bethesda. The atmosphere here is heavy with waiting. For years, people have gathered under these porches, the tired, the aching, and those seeking a spark of hope. They wait for a gentle stirring of the water, a mysterious ripple that signals a moment of healing. The air is filled with the sound of soft breathing and the occasional rustle of a robe against the stone. Among those resting, there is a man who hasn't been able to walk for 38 years. Think of that length of time, the seasons changing, the sun rising and setting, while he remained in the same spot, watching the water. Jesus walks into this space of quiet waiting. He moves slowly, his presence bringing a sense of calm that seems to deepen the silence. He sees the man lying on his mat, and knowing how long the journey has been for him, leans down. His voice is a low, soothing murmur. "Do you want to be made well?" Jesus asks. The man looks up, his voice tired but honest. "Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water moves. While I am trying to reach it, someone else always steps down before me." Jesus doesn't wait for the water to stir. He doesn't look for a sign from the pool. He looks at the man with a gaze that is both firm and infinitely kind. "Rise," Jesus says softly. "Pick up your mat and walk." In an instant, a warmth flows through the man's limbs. The tension of decades simply melts away. He stands up, his movements fluid and easy. He rolls up the simple mat he has lived on for so long, tucks it under his arm, and walks out into the sunlight. It is the Sabbath, a day designed for rest, for stopping all work, and for breathing in the peace of God. As the man walks through the city, some people stop him, concerned that he is carrying his mat on a day of rest. "The man who healed me," he explains simply, "told me to take up my mat and walk." Later, Jesus finds the man again in the quiet, echoing halls of the temple. He speaks to him about a deeper kind of wellness, a wholeness that starts in the heart and radiates outward. When the local leaders question Jesus about why he is performing these acts of mercy on the day of rest, Jesus gives an answer that is as rhythmic and steady as a heartbeat. "My Father is always working," he explains gently, "and so I am working too." Imagine the universe not as a machine that needs to be managed, but as a living, breathing expression of God's care. Even on a day of rest, the grass grows, the stars hold their places, and the heart continues to beat. Jesus is simply joining in that beautiful, ongoing work of bringing life and light. He speaks to them of the deep connection between a father and a son. He describes a relationship of perfect affection and trust. The Father loves the Son, he says, and shows him everything he is doing. Jesus' voice becomes even more soothing as he talks about the nature of life itself. He explains that life isn't just something we have, it's something we hear. "I tell you the truth," he says, Whoever hears my word and trusts the one who sent me has eternal life right now. They have already passed from death into life. Think of that transition from the death of worry, fear, and exhaustion into a life that is steady, quiet, and eternal. It is like stepping out of a noisy, crowded room into a garden at twilight. He tells them that they searched the ancient writings looking for life, but those very words are like signposts pointing toward him, toward the living, breathing presence of peace standing right in front of them. You search the scriptures, he says, but the life you are looking for is found in coming to me. As you listen to these words, imagine yourself letting go of the need to search or work for peace. You don't have to find it. It has already found you. You are like the man at the pool, and the voice is speaking to you now, telling you that the wait is over. The Father is working even now, maintaining the rhythm of your breath and the beating of your heart. The Son is here, offering a life that is full and quiet. The porches of Bethesda are empty now. The city of Jerusalem is asleep under a blanket of stars. The water in the pool is perfectly still, reflecting the silver light of the moon. Everything is in its proper place. The work is done. The rest has begun. The bread of life and the sea of stars. As you prepare for this chapter, imagine the cool evening air of the Galilee hills. The grass is tall and soft, swaying gently in the breeze. Your breathing is slow, steady, and deep, mimicking the soft lap of waves against a distant shore. The day began on a grassy mountain slope overlooking the Sea of Galilee. A vast multitude of people had followed Jesus, their hearts hungry for more than just physical food. Jesus sat there with his disciples, the sun warming the emerald hills, a sense of quiet anticipation in the air. Looking out at the thousands of faces, Jesus turned to Philip with a gentle question. Where can we find bread for all these people to eat? Philip, overwhelmed by the sheer number, shook his head. Even a small fortune wouldn't buy enough for everyone to have a single bite. But Andrew, Peter's brother, stepped forward. Beside him stood a young boy, small and quiet in the large crowd. There is a boy here, Andrew said, his voice soft, who has 5 small barley loaves and 2 little fish. But what are they among so many? Jesus smiled, a look of profound peace on his face. Have the people sit down, he said. Imagine 5,000 people sitting in the lush green grass. The world grew quiet as Jesus took the simple loaves. He looked up to the sky, gave thanks, and began to break the bread. As the disciples passed the baskets around, a miracle of abundance unfolded. No matter how much they gave, there was always more. Everyone ate until they were full, the simple taste of barley and fish becoming a feast of satisfaction. When the meal was over, the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of amber and violet. Gather the fragments, Jesus said, so that nothing is lost. They filled 12 baskets with what remained, a reminder that in the hands of the divine there is always more than enough. As the stars began to appear, Jesus withdrew alone into the mountains to pray, seeking the stillness of the heights. His disciples went down to the sea, boarded their boat, and began the row across toward Capernaum. Night fell, and the water grew dark. A strong wind began to blow, tossing the sea into restless waves. They were miles from shore, rowing against the current when they saw a figure moving across the water. It was Jesus walking calmly upon the waves as if the sea were a solid path of glass. The disciples were afraid, their hearts racing with the storm. But through the wind, his voice came to them, warm, steady, and unmistakable. "It is I," he said. "Do not be afraid." As soon as they welcomed him into the boat, the storm seemed to lose its power. The boat reached the shore immediately, settling into the soft sand of the harbor. The chaos was gone, replaced by the safety of the land. The next day the crowds found him in Capernaum. They were still thinking of the bread that had filled them on the hillside. But Jesus wanted to lead them into a deeper rest. "Do not work for the food that spoils," he told them, his voice echoing in the quiet synagogue. "Seek the food that remains for eternal life." The people asked, "What must we do to perform the works of God?" "This is the work," Jesus answered. "Simply believe in the one he has sent." He spoke to them then of a different kind of bread, not the manna their ancestors ate in the desert, but the true bread from heaven. "I am the bread of life," he declared. "Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." His words were deep like a slow-moving tide. He explained that he had come down from heaven not to follow his own path, but to fulfill the will of the Father who sent him, a will that promises that no one who comes to him will ever be lost. Everyone who sees the Son and believes, he promised, will have life that goes on forever. Some found his words difficult to understand. They whispered among themselves, confused by the mystery of his teaching. But Jesus remained calm. "It is the Spirit who gives life," he explained. "The words I speak to you, they are spirit and they are life." As the crowds thinned and some walked away, Jesus turned to his closest friends. "Do you want to leave as well?" Peter looked at him, the memory of the bread and the walking on the water still fresh in his mind. "Lord, where would we go?" he whispered. "You have the words of eternal life. We believe and we know that you are the Holy One of God." Let that phrase settle into your mind, the words of eternal life. Imagine those words as a soft, glowing light within you. You are no longer hungry. You are no longer thirsty. The storm on the sea has passed, and your boat has reached the shore. You are off the mountain, away from the crowds, resting in the quiet truth that you are held, you are fed, and you are known. The baskets are full, the wind is still. The bread of life is with you. The hidden journey and the river of the Spirit. Take a moment to let your body settle completely. Imagine you are resting in a quiet, secluded garden in Galilee. The sun is gentle. The leaves of the olive trees are silvery in the light, and the world feels far away. Your breath is like a slow, rhythmic tide, pulling peace in and letting tension go. In the hills of Galilee, Jesus walked in the quiet spaces. The time for the great festival of booths had arrived in Jerusalem, a time when people built small shelters of branches to remember God's care in the wilderness. It was a season of harvest and gratitude. His brothers, not yet understanding the depth of his path, urged him to go to the city. "If you want to be known, go to the capital," they said. "Show the world what you can do." But Jesus lived in a different rhythm. He was tuned to a timing that wasn't dictated by the rush of the world. "My time has not yet come," he told them softly. "You go ahead. I will stay here for now." He stayed in the stillness of Galilee for a few days longer, waiting for the right moment. Then, moving quietly and without fanfare, he traveled toward Jerusalem. He moved like the wind he had described to Nicodemus, unseen, gentle, yet full of purpose. In the city, the air was electric with anticipation. People were whispering in the temple courts, looking for him. Where is he, they wondered. Some spoke of his goodness. Others were confused. But Jesus was waiting. When the festival was halfway through, he appeared in the temple. He began to teach, and his words had a weight and a beauty that left the listeners in awe. How does he know these things, they marveled. He hasn't studied in the traditional schools. Jesus answered their thoughts with a voice that was calm and steady. "My teaching is not my own invention," he explained. "It flows from the one who sent me. If anyone truly wants to do God's will, they will recognize the truth in these words." He spoke of a deeper law, not one of rigid rules, but of healing and wholeness. He reminded them of the man he had healed at the pool of Bethesda. "I made a man completely whole on the Sabbath," he said, "and you are surprised? Do not judge by how things look on the outside. Look deeper. Judge with a heart that is right and true." The sun continued its slow arc over the city. Some people began to realize who he was. They saw him speaking openly, yet no one stopped him. "Is it possible the leaders know he is the Christ?" they whispered. But Jesus, standing in the vast stone courts of the temple, called out to them, "You think you know where I am from, but I haven't come on my own. The one who sent me is true. I know him, for I come from his side." The officers of the city were sent to arrest him, but as they drew near, they found they couldn't move against him. There was an atmosphere of peace around him that was more powerful than any force. His hour had not yet come, and he remained as safe as a child in a father's arms. "I will be with you only a little while longer," he told the crowd, his voice filled with a gentle, bittersweet clarity. "Then I will return to the one who sent me. You will look for me, but where I am going, you cannot come yet." Then came the last day of the festival, the greatest day. In a beautiful ceremony, water was poured out to remember the water that flowed from the rock in the desert. In that moment of symbolic thirst and literal heat, Jesus stood and let his voice carry over the silence of the crowd. "If anyone is thirsty," he cried out, "let them come to me and drink." Imagine the cooling sensation of a deep, clear spring. "Whoever believes in me," he promised, "from within them will flow rivers of living water." He was speaking of the Spirit, a presence that would soon be given to everyone who trusted him. Imagine that river now. It isn't a rushing flood that causes worry. It is a deep underground stream that stays cool even in the heat of the day. It is a river of peace that flows through your thoughts, washing away the dust of the day and bringing life to every tired part of your soul. The day ended as all days do. The crowds argued and whispered, divided by their own thoughts. The officers returned to the leaders empty-handed. "Why didn't you bring him?" they were asked. The officers could only shake their heads, their voices hushed. "No one," they whispered, "has ever spoken the way this man speaks." Even Nicodemus, who had visited Jesus in the quiet of the night, stood up to defend him, asking for fairness and truth. And then, as the stars began to blanket the sky over Jerusalem, the noise faded. The argument ceased. The text tells us everyone went to his own house. Imagine yourself doing the same. You are returning to your own house, the house of your heart. The festival is over. The thirsty have been invited to the spring. The river of the Spirit is flowing quietly within you. The city is still. The temple is quiet. The living water is moving through you, rhythmic and peaceful. The morning light and the eternal presence. Close your eyes now. Imagine you are standing on a hillside overlooking a sleeping city. The air is the perfect temperature, neither warm nor cold, just a gentle, refreshing coolness that brushes against your skin. You are on the Mount of Olives. The ancient trees stand like silent guardians around you, their silver-green leaves shimmering softly in the moonlight. Jesus spent the night here in the quiet of the mountain. Imagine him resting against the trunk of an old olive tree, listening to the soft rustle of the wind and the distant rhythmic breathing of the world. There is no rush here, only the slow, steady passage of time. As the first light of dawn begins to touch the horizon, painting the sky in pale pinks and soft grays, Jesus walks back down into the city. He enters the temple courts just as the sun begins to warm the heavy white stones. People are already gathering, drawn to the sense of peace he carries. He sits down, a comfortable, grounded posture, and begins to talk with them. His voice is calm, blending with the early morning sounds of the birds and the waking city. Suddenly, the peace is interrupted. A group of men, loud and tense, march into the courtyard. They bring a woman with them, pushing her into the center of the circle. The air grows sharp with their judgment. They speak of ancient laws and heavy stones, trying to trap Jesus in a web of difficult questions. The law says she should be punished, they demand. What do you say? Jesus doesn't answer immediately. He doesn't match their volume or their tension. Instead, he moves with a slow, deliberate grace. He stoops down and begins to write in the dust of the floor with his finger. Think of the texture of that dust, cool and fine beneath his touch. The world seems to hold its breath. The only sound is a scratching of his finger on the stone and the heavy breathing of the accusers. When they keep pressing him, he looks up, his eyes filled with a clarity that sees through every mask. If any of you has never made a mistake, he says softly, if you are completely without sin, then you go ahead, you throw the first stone. Then he simply stoops down again and continues to write in the dust. A profound silence falls over the courtyard. One by one, starting with the oldest and wisest, the men turn away. You can hear the soft thud of their footsteps as they leave, their anger dissolving into the morning air. Finally, Jesus is left alone with the woman. He stands up and looks at her, his expression free of any weight or judgment. Where did they all go? He asked gently. Is there no one left to condemn you? No one, Lord, she whispers, the relief washing over her like a cool wave. Then I don't condemn you either, Jesus says, his voice a promise of a new beginning. Go in peace. Go and live a life that is true and whole. As the sun rises higher, flooding the temple with golden light, Jesus speaks to the crowd again. His words are like a lamp being lit in a dark hallway. I am the light of the world, he tells them. If you follow me, you won't have to stumble through the darkness. You will have the light that leads to real life. He talks to them about truth and what it means to be truly free. He explains that freedom isn't just about where you are or who your ancestors were. It's a freedom that lives inside you. If you live according to my words, he says, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Imagine that feeling of freedom, the sensation of a heavy weight being lifted from your chest, the feeling of a door opening to a wide, sunlit field. If the sun sets you free, he promises, you are free in the deepest way possible. The conversation grows deeper and more mysterious as the day continues. The religious leaders struggle to understand. They speak of the past, of their history and their fathers. But Jesus speaks of the eternal now. I am not alone, he tells them. The one who sent me is always with me. He hasn't left me because I am always in harmony with him. Finally, they ask him the ultimate question. Who do you think you are? You aren't even 50 years old, yet you speak as if you knew Abraham, who lived ages ago. Jesus looks at them, his presence suddenly feeling as vast as the mountains and as old as the stars. His voice carries the weight of eternity. I tell you the truth, he says, with a quiet, unshakable authority. Before Abraham was ever born, I am. For a moment the world stands still. It is a declaration of a life that has no beginning and no end, a peace that exists outside of time. Even as some in the crowd grow angry and reach for stones, Jesus simply moves through their midst. He isn't hurried. He isn't afraid. He walks through the center of the crowd and disappears into the quiet shadows of the city, as hidden and safe as a whisper. As you drift towards sleep, think of that eternal I am. It is a light that never flickers. It is a truth that makes you free. It is a presence that was there before the world began and will be there when the sun rises tomorrow. The temple is quiet now. The Mount of Olives is bathed in the soft light of the evening stars. The dust where he wrote has been swept clean by the wind, but the words of freedom remain. You are in that light. You are in that freedom. You are safe in the Am. The pool of Siloam and the awakening of sight. Take a deep breath. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest. Imagine you are walking along a quiet, sun-warmed path in Jerusalem. The air is still, carrying the faint, earthy scent of stone and ancient dust. The shadows are long and cool, offering a place for your mind to rest as the day begins to fade. As Jesus walked through the city, his pace was slow and unhurried. He came across a man sitting by the wayside, a man who had lived his entire life in a world of soft darkness, having been blind since the day he was born. The disciples looked at the man and began to ask questions of logic and cause. Rabbi, they asked, who sinned? Was it this man or his parents that caused him to be born this way? Jesus' voice was a calm, steady anchor in the conversation. It wasn't because of anyone's sin, he said gently. This happened so that the beauty and the work of God could be revealed in his life. While it is day, we do the work of the one who sent me. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Then Jesus did something unexpected and earthy. He stooped down to the ground. Imagine the sound of his fingers moving through the cool, dry soil. He made a bit of clay with the dust and gently pressed it over the man's eyes. The clay was cool and damp, a physical connection between the earth and the man's silent world. "Now," Jesus whispered, "go and wash in the pool of Siloam." The man stood up. He felt his way through the streets, his heart beating with a quiet, budding hope. He reached the pool, a place of clear, cold water reflecting the blue sky. Imagine the sensation as he splashed the water onto his face, rinsing away the clay. As the water cleared, so did his world. For the first time, colors flooded in, the deep green of the moss, the shimmering silver of the water, the golden stones of the city. He came back not just walking, but seeing. The neighbors and those who had passed him every day were stunned. "Is this the same man who used to sit and beg?" they whispered. Some were sure it was him. Others thought it was just someone who looked like him. But the man smiled, his eyes bright with wonder. "I am the one," he said. They asked how his eyes were opened, and he told them about the man called Jesus, the cool mud and the washing in the pool. It was a simple story, but it was filled with a power that unsettled the city's leaders. They brought him before the Pharisees. It was the Sabbath, the day of deep rest. Some of the leaders were troubled because Jesus had worked with the clay on the day of rest, but others were moved by the miracle. "How can a man who is a sinner do such beautiful signs?" they asked. They questioned the man's parents, who confirmed that this was indeed their son, born blind. They questioned the man again, trying to get him to speak against Jesus, but the man remained as steady as the stones of the temple. "I don't know if he is a sinner," the man said, his voice calm and filled with a newfound dignity. "One thing I do know, I was blind, and now I see." The leaders, frustrated by a truth they couldn't explain away, grew angry and cast the man out of their circle. Jesus heard that the man had been sent away. He didn't leave him alone in his new world. He went and found him. Imagine the two of them standing together in a quiet corner of the city. "Do you believe in the Son of God?" Jesus asked. The man looked at the face of the one who had given him sight, the first face he had ever truly seen. "Who is he, Lord?" he asked. "Tell me so that I may believe." Jesus spoke with a warmth that felt like the sun on a clear morning. "You have seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you right now." The man bowed his head, a deep peace settling over him. "Lord, I believe," he whispered. Jesus then spoke of a different kind of sight. He explained that he came to help those who realize they are in the dark to find the light, while those who think they already know everything might find themselves missing the truth. As the stars begin to appear over the pool of Siloam, let your own inner eyes rest. Like the man in the story, you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to understand the why of every struggle. You only need to know that the light of the world has found you. The clay has been washed away. The world is beautiful and quiet. The water in the pool is still, and the darkness of the night is not a place of fear, but a place of deep, restorative rest. The colors of the day have faded into soft shades of indigo and velvet black. You are seen. You are known. You are in the light. The Good Shepherd and the peaceful fold. As you settle into the stillness of this moment, imagine a gentle, rolling hillside under a vast indigo sky. The air is cool and carries the faint, sweet scent of wild thyme and clover. You are safe. You are tucked away from the noise of the world, much like a traveler finding a warm, dry shelter as the stars begin to emerge. In the quiet of the evening, Jesus began to speak of a place of safety, a sheepfold. Imagine a low wall of stacked stones, worn smooth by time, surrounding a patch of soft green grass. This is the place where the sheep come to rest when the sun goes down. I tell you the truth, Jesus said, his voice as steady and calming as a low-burning fire. Anyone who tries to climb over the wall instead of coming through the gate is not there to care for the sheep, but the one who enters through the door, he is the shepherd. Imagine the gatekeeper standing at the entrance. He recognizes the shepherd's step and swings the heavy wooden gate open. The shepherd doesn't have to shout. He simply speaks. He calls his own sheep by their names, names like peace, rest, and beloved. And because they know his voice, because it sounds like home, they follow him. He walks ahead of them, clearing the path, and they follow him into the wide, quiet pastures. The people listening were still a bit confused, their minds busy with the day's worries. So Jesus spoke even more clearly, his words wrapping around them like a warm blanket. I am the door, he told them softly. I am the gate. If anyone enters through me, they will find safety. They will be able to go in and come out, finding green pastures whenever they need them. I haven't come to take anything away. I have come so that you may have life, life that is full, overflowing, and deeply satisfying. Then he gave himself a name that has echoed through the quiet nights ever since. I am the Good Shepherd, he said. The Good Shepherd is different from a hired hand. A hired hand might run away when he hears the howl of a wolf in the distance because the sheep don't truly belong to him. But I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. We belong to one another, just as I and the Father belong to one another. I would lay down my life to keep them safe. He spoke of a fold that was growing even larger, bringing in others from distant hills, until there would be one big, peaceful flock under one watchful shepherd. I lay down my life because I choose to, he explained, and I have the power to take it up again. This is the promise of peace the Father has given me. The seasons changed, and winter arrived in Jerusalem. Imagine the cool, crisp air and the sound of footsteps echoing under the long stone walkway of Solomon's porch in the temple. Jesus was walking there, his cloak pulled close against the winter chill. People gathered around him, their breaths visible in the cold air. If you are the Christ, just tell us plainly, they urged. Jesus looked at them with a gaze that was as clear as ice and as warm as the sun. I have already told you, he said gently, and you have seen the work I do. But you struggle to believe because you aren't listening for my voice. My sheep hear me, I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one can ever snatch them out of my hand. My Father, who gave them to me, is greater than all, and no one can snatch them out of his hand either. I and the Father are one. Even when things became tense in the city, even when people picked up stones in their confusion, Jesus remained perfectly calm. He spoke of the Father's love and the good works he had done. When the crowd pressed in, he simply stepped away. moving through their midst as easily as a shadow. He traveled back across the Jordan River to the quiet place where John had first baptized. It was a place of memories of flowing water and starlit nights. He stayed there for a while, and in that peaceful countryside many people came to him and found rest for their souls. As you drift off now, imagine yourself as one of those sheep in the fold. The stone walls are high and strong, the gate is closed and barred against the wind. The Good Shepherd is standing watch, his hand resting on the gate. You are not forgotten. You are called by name. You are held in a hand so strong that nothing can ever pull you away. The winter wind might blow outside, but inside the fold, the grass is soft, and the shepherd's voice is the only sound you need to hear. Sleep, he says. You are safe. You are mine. The deep sleep and the great awakening. Take a long, slow breath in, and as you exhale, let your feet and legs become heavy, as if you are sinking into a warm, comfortable bed of sand. The world outside is growing dim, the colors of the day fading into soft, velvety shadows. Our story moves to the small village of Bethany, nestled just over the hill from Jerusalem. It is a place of quiet gardens and stone houses, where the air smells of dry earth and ancient olive trees. In this village live 3 siblings, Martha, Mary, and their brother Lazarus. They were dear friends of Jesus, the kind of friends who shared long meals and quiet conversations as the sun went down. But a shadow had fallen over their home. Lazarus was very sick. The sisters sent a message to Jesus, who was staying in the quiet country beyond the Jordan. The message was simple and full of trust. Lord, the one you love so much is ill. When Jesus heard it, he didn't rush. He remained in the stillness of the countryside for 2 more days. He knew that this journey wasn't about a race against time, but about a revelation of peace. He told his disciples, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up." The disciples, thinking of the restorative power of a good night's rest, replied, "Lord, if he is sleeping, he will surely get better." But Jesus was speaking of a deeper sleep. He looked at them with a steady gaze. "Lazarus has died," he said plainly, "but let us go to him now." As they approached Bethany, the air was heavy with the sound of mourning. Martha, ever the one to meet life head-on, ran out to the road to meet Jesus. Her heart was heavy, yet her faith was like a sturdy stone. "Lord," she said, "if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died." Jesus looked at her, his presence radiating a calm that seemed to quiet the wind. "Your brother will rise again," he promised. "I know he will rise in the future," Martha sighed, "on the final day." Then Jesus spoke words that carry the weight of eternity, yet are as soft as a whisper. "I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live, even if they die. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never truly die." "Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she whispered, "I believe." Martha went back to the house and called for Mary. When Mary reached Jesus, she fell at his feet, her heart overflowing with the same bittersweet thought, "If only you had been here." When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the grief of those who loved Lazarus, he was deeply moved. His heart groaned with a profound, quiet compassion. In the shortest and most tender moment of the story, the text tells us Jesus wept. Even the King of Peace felt the weight of human sorrow. He didn't stand above it, he entered into it with them. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. They led him to a tomb, a cave carved into the limestone, with a heavy, cool stone rolled across the entrance. "Take away the stone," Jesus commanded. Martha hesitated, thinking of the 4 days that had passed and the finality of the grave. But Jesus looked at her with a gentle reminder. "Didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" The stone was rolled away with a low, grinding sound. Jesus looked up to the sky, his voice a conversation with the Father. "Father, I thank you that you always hear me." Then, with a voice that carried the authority of the stars and the gentleness of a parent waking a child from a dream, he called out, "Lazarus, come out." And in the silence of the cave there was movement. The man who had been in the deepest sleep stepped out into the light, still wrapped in the linens of the grave. "Unwrap him," Jesus said with a smile, "and let him go." Life had returned to Bethany. The morning turned into a quiet, stunned wonder. Many who saw this began to realize that death was not a wall, but a doorway, and that the one who held the key was standing right there in the dusty street. But as the news spread to the great city of Jerusalem, the leaders grew restless. They feared the change he was bringing. They plotted in the dark of their councils, not knowing that even their plans were part of a larger story of life for the whole world. Jesus, knowing his time was approaching but not yet fully here, withdrew with his disciples to a quiet town called Ephraim, near the edge of the wilderness. Imagine them there now, sitting by a small fire as the desert stars come out. The air is cool and perfectly still. The noise of the city and the plotting of men are far, far away. As you drift off, think of the sleep Jesus described. It isn't something to fear. It is a rest from which you will awaken refreshed. The one who called Lazarus from the cave is the same one who watches over your rest tonight. The stone has been rolled away from your worries. The wraps of the day's stress are being undone. You are free to rest. You are free to let go. The wilderness is quiet. The village is still. The friend who stayed is here. The fragrance of peace and the path of light. As you settle into your covers, imagine the air around you is soft and still. Your breathing is slow, steady, and deep, like the quiet rhythm of a house at rest. Before we begin, imagine a scent, something warm, floral, and deeply calming, beginning to drift through your thoughts. 6 days before the great Passover festival, Jesus returned to the quiet village of Bethany. He went to the home of his friends where Lazarus, the one who had been called back from the deep sleep, was now living. The evening was warm. Imagine a low-lit room, the flickering amber glow of oil lamps casting soft shadows on the stone walls. They had prepared a supper for Jesus. Martha was there, moving efficiently and quietly, her presence a steady comfort as she served the meal. Lazarus sat at the table, his face healthy and bright, a living testament to the peace that overcomes all things. In the middle of this quiet gathering, Mary approached. She carried a jar of pure, precious nard, a fragrance so rich and deep it seemed to hold the essence of 1,000 flowers. She knelt at Jesus' feet and began to pour the oil. As she wiped his feet with her hair, The scent didn't stay in the corner. It rose and expanded, filling every nook and cranny of the house until the very air felt heavy with grace. One of the disciples, Judas, grumbled about the cost, his mind busy with numbers and coins. But Jesus spoke softly, protecting the stillness of the moment. "Leave her alone," he said. "She has done a beautiful thing, preparing me for what is to come." You will always have opportunities to help the poor, but these moments of presence are precious. The next morning, the quiet of Bethany gave way to the vibrant energy of Jerusalem. A massive crowd had gathered for the feast. When they heard Jesus was approaching, they didn't reach for stones or arguments, they reached for the sky. Imagine the sound of palm branches rustling in the wind as people cut them from the trees. They lined the road, waving the green fronds and shouting words of joy, "Hosanna! Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord." Jesus entered the city not on a war horse, but on a young donkey, a symbol of a king who brings peace instead of conflict. His friends didn't fully understand the weight of the moment then, but later, in the quiet reflections of their hearts, they remembered how every step was the fulfillment of an ancient promise. Do not be afraid, for your King is coming to you with gentleness. Even travelers from distant lands, Greeks who had come for the festival, felt the pull of this peace. They sought out Philip, saying simply, "Sir, we want to see Jesus." When Jesus heard this, he spoke of the mystery of life. His voice was like a slow-moving river, deep and inevitable. "The time has come," he said. "Think of a grain of wheat. If it stays safe in a jar, it remains just a single seed. But if it is buried in the cool, dark earth, it changes. It gives up its old life to bring forth a whole field of fruit." He admitted with a beautiful honesty that his soul was troubled by the path ahead, but he didn't pull away. "Father, glorify your name," he prayed. And then a sound like distant thunder rolled across the sky, or perhaps it was the voice of an angel. A great sound of affirmation echoed through the air. "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." Jesus looked at the crowd, his eyes filled with the light of the setting sun. "I am going to be lifted up," he told them, "and when I am, I will draw everyone to myself. The light is with you for just a little longer. Walk while you have the light so the darkness doesn't overtake you. Believe in the light, and you will become children of the light." As the day ended, Jesus withdrew and hid himself for a while, seeking the sanctuary of the shadows. Even though many had seen his signs, their hearts were still heavy and slow to believe. But Jesus wasn't there to judge. "I haven't come to judge the world," he cried out, his voice a final invitation before the night fell. "I have come to save the world. Whoever sees me sees the one who sent me. I have come as a light into the darkness so that no one who trusts in me has to stay in the dark." He spoke of his Father's commandment, and he gave it a name that you can hold on to as you drift off: eternal life. Every word he spoke was simply an echo of the Father's love, a steady heartbeat of truth. Now let the fragrance of Mary's oil fill your mind once more. The shouts of the crowd have faded into the silence of the evening. The palm branches are lying still on the road. The grain of wheat is resting in the quiet earth. The light of the world is not gone. It has simply moved inside, into the quiet chambers of your heart. You are a child of the light. You are not in the darkness. Sleep in the light, rest in the fragrance of peace. The basin of water and the new commandment. As you prepare to drift further into stillness, imagine yourself in a quiet, secluded upper room in Jerusalem. The city outside is hushed, the evening shadows stretching long across the stone streets. Inside, the room is warm, lit by the soft, steady glow of oil lamps. The air is calm, carrying the faint scent of baked bread and the cooling evening breeze. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus sat at a table with his closest friends. He knew that the rhythm of his life was changing, that the time had come for him to move from this world back to the side of the Father. But his heart wasn't focused on the future. It was focused on the men sitting around him. He had loved them through the dusty roads of Galilee and the crowded streets of Jerusalem, and now he loved them to the very end. During the meal, a profound stillness fell over the room. Jesus, knowing that he held the power of the universe in his hands and that he had come from the heart of God, did something that surprised everyone. He rose from the table, moving with a slow, purposeful grace. He laid aside his outer robe and wrapped a simple linen towel around his waist. Imagine the sound of water being poured, a soft, rhythmic splashing as he filled a basin. One by one, he knelt before his friends. Imagine the cool, soothing sensation of the water as he began to wash their tired, dusty feet, drying them gently with the towel. This was the work of a servant, yet he did it with the dignity of a king. When he came to Peter, the fisherman hesitated. "Lord," Peter whispered, "are you really going to wash my feet?" Jesus looked up at him, his eyes filled with a patient light. "You don't fully understand what I am doing right now, Peter, but one day, in the quiet of your heart, you will." "You shall never wash my feet," Peter insisted, moved by a sense of unworthiness. "If I don't wash you," Jesus said softly, "you cannot share in my life." At this, Peter's heart opened completely. "Then, Lord, not just my feet, wash my hands and my head as well." Jesus smiled. "Those who have bathed only need their feet washed to be completely clean. And you," he said, looking around the room, "are clean." After he had finished, Jesus put his robe back on and returned to his place at the table. The room was silent, the only sound the flickering of the lamps. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right. If I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, then you should do the same for one another. I have given you an example. No servant is greater than his master, and no messenger is greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, you will find a deep blessing in doing them." A shadow passed over the room as Jesus spoke of one who would turn away. He was troubled in spirit, not out of anger, but out of a deep sorrow for a friend. He dipped a piece of bread into the bowl and handed it to Judas. "What you must do," Jesus said gently, "do it quickly." Judas stepped out into the night, and the text tells us simply, it was night. But inside the room, the light seemed to grow warmer. Jesus leaned toward his remaining friends, his voice dropping to a tender, intimate tone. "Little children," he said, "I will be with you only a little while longer. I am going somewhere you cannot come yet, but I am giving you something to hold on to while I am gone. I give you a new commandment: love one another. Just as I have loved you with this same gentleness and service, you must love one another. This is how the world will know you are mine, by the love you show. Peter, his heart restless, asked, Lord, where are you going? Why can't I follow you now? I would lay down my life for you. Jesus looked at his brave, impulsive friend with a gaze of infinite kindness and knowing. Will you really lay down your life for me? I tell you the truth, Peter, before the sun rises and the rooster crows, you will say 3 times that you don't even know me. Let that scene rest in your mind. The basin of water is still, the towel is folded, the bread has been shared. Even knowing the failures and the turnings away that were to come, Jesus didn't stop loving. He didn't stop washing their feet. Imagine that same water washing away your own worries, the dust of your day, and the mistakes of your past. You are clean. You are loved to the very end. The night may be outside, but you are in the upper room. You are tucked away in a place of service and deep affection. The new commandment is not a burden. It is a rest. You don't have to be perfect. You only have to let yourself be loved. The lamps are burning low. The city of Jerusalem is asleep. The teacher is watching over you. The prepared place and the gift of peace. Take a deep, slow breath. As you exhale, imagine the tension leaving your shoulders and the weight of the day falling away. You are still in that upper room. The lamps have been trimmed, and their warm, steady glow bathes the room in a soft amber light. Outside, the world is silent and dark, but inside, there is a profound sense of intimacy and belonging. Jesus looks around at his friends. He sees the shadow of worry in their eyes, the restlessness of their hearts after the washing of their feet, and the talk of his departure. His voice, when he speaks, is like a soothing balm, low and incredibly gentle. Don't let your hearts be troubled, he says. Trust in God, and trust also in me. Imagine a vast, beautiful house, the Father's house. It isn't a place of cold marble or distant halls. It is a home with many rooms, many places of belonging. There is plenty of room for everyone, Jesus reassures them. If it weren't so, I would have told you. I am going ahead of you to prepare a place specifically for you. And if I go to prepare it, you can be certain that I will come back to receive you, so that where I am, you will be also. Thomas, ever the literal one, asks with a hint of anxiety, Lord, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? Jesus smiles, his presence radiating an unshakable calm. I am the way, he tells him. I am the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you have seen me and known me, you have seen and known the Father. Philip leans in, seeking one more sign to steady his heart. Lord, just show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. Jesus' response is filled with a tender, long-suffering affection. Have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still don't truly see me? To see me is to see the Father. I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. The very words I speak and the works I do, they aren't just mine. They are the Father living in me, doing his work. He speaks then of a future filled with a different kind of strength. He promises that because he is going to the Father, his friends will continue his work, and even greater things will happen through them. Whatever you ask in my name, he promises, I will do it, so that the Father's beauty is revealed in the Son. But then he offers the most comforting promise of all, the promise of a presence that will never leave. If you love me, he says, his voice a soft melody in the quiet room, I will ask the Father, and he will give you another counselor, a comforter, to be with you forever. It is the Spirit of truth. The world might not perceive him, but you know him, for he lives with you now, and soon he will be in you. I will not leave you like orphans, Jesus whispers. I will come to you. In just a little while the world won't see me anymore, but you will see me, and because I live, you will live also. On that day you will realize the most beautiful truth, that I am in the Father, you are in me, and I am in you. He speaks of a life of mutual love, a circle of affection that begins with the Father, flows through the Son, and rests in those who keep his words. Judas, the other Judas, asks how he will reveal himself to them and not to the whole world. Jesus explains that it is a matter of the heart. If anyone loves me, they will keep my word. My Father will love them, and we will come and make our very home with them. We will settle there in the quiet places of their soul. The evening is drawing to a close. Jesus begins to wrap up his time in the room, but before they leave, he leaves them a gift. Peace I leave with you, he says. Imagine him reaching out his hands as if to bestow a physical treasure. My own peace I give to you. It isn't like the peace the world offers, fragile and dependent on circumstances. No, this is my peace. So, do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not be afraid. He reminds them that his going away is actually a reason for joy, for he is returning to the Father. He warns them that the prince of this world is coming, but that this shadow has no power over him. Everything he does out of a perfect, rhythmic love for the Father. Arise, he says finally, his voice steady and full of purpose. Let's go from here. Imagine the sound of them rising from the table, the soft rustle of their robes, and the gentle clinking of the water basin. They move toward the door, leaving the warmth of the lamps for the cool, starlit night. But as you drift off, stay in that peace. The place he went to prepare is ready for your mind to rest in. The Counselor, the Spirit of Truth, is already within you, a quiet, steady breath of comfort. You are not an orphan. You are not alone. The Father and the Son have made their home with you. Your heart does not need to be troubled. It does not need to be afraid. The world is dark and silent, but the peace of Jesus is resting on you like a soft, heavy quilt. The vine, the branches, and the sacred connection. As you lie here, imagine the cool night air of Jerusalem pressing gently against your skin. Jesus and his friends have left the upper room and are walking through the quiet streets toward the Kidron Valley. Perhaps they pass through a garden or by a vineyard where the moonlight catches the gnarled ancient wood of the vines and the soft silver-green leaves. The world is still. Your breathing is slow and rhythmic, matching the steady pace of their footsteps on the stone path. As they walk, Jesus gestures to the vines climbing the walls around them. His voice is a low, soothing melody that blends with the rustle of the leaves. I am the true vine, he says softly, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch that is part of me is carefully tended. If a branch doesn't bear fruit, he lifts it up, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, gently cleaning and shaping it so that it can hold even more life. Imagine the gardener's hands, strong, patient, and incredibly kind. You have already been made clean, Jesus reassures them, by the words I have spoken to you. Now all you have to do is rest, remain in me, and I will remain in you. He speaks of a beautiful, effortless connection. A branch cannot grow fruit on its own. It has to stay connected to the vine. In the same way, you cannot find your own peace or your own strength by yourself. I am the vine, and you are the branches. If you simply stay with me, if you rest in this connection, life will flow through you naturally like sap through the wood. Without me, you don't have to worry about doing anything at all, because apart from me, you can do nothing. The path winds deeper into the shadows of the garden. The air is cool and fragrant. If you remain in me, Jesus continues, and my words settle deep into your heart like seeds in fertile soil, you can ask for whatever your soul desires, and it will be given to you. This is how the Father is glorified, when you live a life that is full and vibrant simply by staying connected to the source. He speaks then of a great circle of love. As the Father has loved me, I have loved you. Now just stay there, remain in my love. Imagine that love as a warm golden light surrounding you, protecting you from the chill of the night. I'm telling you these things so that my joy can live inside you, he whispers, and so that your joy can be complete, heavy, stable, and deep. This is my commandment, he says, his voice filled with a profound tenderness. Love one another just as I have loved you. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for a friend. And that is what you are to me. I don't call you servants anymore. A servant doesn't know his master's heart. I call you friends. I have shared everything with you. I have opened my heart to you. He reminds them that they didn't have to find him or earn his favor. You didn't choose me, he says with a smile. I chose you. I appointed you to go out and live a life that lasts, a life that bears fruit that never spoils. As they move through the deeper shadows, he warns them that the world might not always understand this peace. If the world struggles with you, remember that it struggled with me first. You aren't part of the world's chaos anymore. I have chosen you out of it. You belong to a different kingdom, a kingdom of quiet and truth. The night grows deeper. The stars are bright above the olive trees. When the Comforter comes, the Spirit of truth who flows from the Father, he will tell you everything you need to know about me. He will be your steady breath when you are tired. He will be your reminder of this night and of this love. The walk continues, but the lesson remains. You are a branch. You don't have to strive to grow. You don't have to struggle to produce. You only have to stay attached to the vine. The vine does the work. The vine provides the life. The vine holds you up. Imagine yourself leaning into that strength now. Feel the life of the vine flowing into you, bringing a deep, settled peace to every part of your body. You are tended by the gardener. You are loved by the vine. You are a friend of the light. The garden is silent. The vine is still. The connection is perfect. The coming joy and the peace that overcomes. Take a long, slow breath Imagine the night sky over Jerusalem, a deep velvet indigo dotted with stars that seem to pulse with a soft, steady light. You are still walking with Jesus and his friends, leaving the city walls behind and heading toward the quiet shadows of the olive groves. The air is cooler here, smelling of damp earth and night-blooming jasmine. The sound of your footsteps on the dusty path is rhythmic and grounding, a steady beat that tells your heart it is time to rest. Jesus continues to speak as they walk, his voice low and intimate, like a secret shared between the best of friends. He sees the sadness that has settled over them, a heavy, quiet sorrow that comes when we know a change is near. I'm telling you these things now, he says, his voice a gentle anchor, so that you won't lose your way when things get difficult. I know your hearts are full of sorrow because I've told you. I'm leaving. But I want you to hear the truth. It is actually better for you that I go. Because if I go, I can send the counselor to you, the comforter who will never leave your side. Imagine this counselor not as a stranger, but as a silent, invisible breath of peace that will live within you. Jesus explains that this Spirit of truth will be like a guide through a dark forest, leading you into everything that is true. He won't just speak on his own, Jesus whispers. He will take the beauty and the peace that belong to me and the Father, and he will breathe it directly into your soul. Then he speaks a phrase that sounds like a lullaby, repeated and rhythmic. A little while? In a little while, he says, you won't see me anymore, and then in another little while, you will see me again. The disciples whisper among themselves, confused by the mystery of time. What does he mean by a little while? But Jesus, sensing their restless thoughts, turns to them with a look of pure compassion. You are going to go through a time of weeping, he says softly. The world might seem to carry on as if nothing has changed, and you will feel the weight of your grief. But listen to me. Your sorrow will be turned into joy. He uses a beautiful natural image to help them understand. Think of a mother about to give birth. In the moment, she feels the intensity and the pain, but as soon as her child is born, the pain vanishes, swallowed up by a joy so great she can hardly remember the struggle. That is how it will be for you. Right now is your time of sorrow, but I will see you again, and when I do, your heart will overflow with a joy that no one, not a person, not a circumstance, not a single worry, can ever take away from you. In that day, he continues, you won't need to ask me so many questions. You will know the Father's love for yourselves. I'm telling you plainly now. The Father himself loves you deeply because you have loved me and believed that I came from him. I came from the Father into this world, and now I am leaving the world to return to his side. The disciples feel a sudden clarity, like the moon emerging from behind a cloud. Now we understand, they say. Now we see. Jesus looks at them, his gaze seeing both their current strength and the moments they will soon falter. Do you finally believe? He asks, with a tender, knowing smile. The time is coming, it's actually here right now, when you will all be scattered. You'll head back to your own places and you will leave me alone, but I am never truly alone because the Father is always with me. Then he speaks the words that serve as a perfect pillow for a tired mind. He stops on the path, the moonlight silvering his hair and his robes, and speaks directly to your heart. I have told you all of this so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have struggles. You will feel the pressure and the noise. But take heart, be at peace. I have overcome the world. Let those words settle over you like a heavy, warm quilt. I have overcome the world. The noise, the worries, the to-do lists, and the what-ifs, they have all been overcome. They don't have the final word. The final word is peace. The little while of the night is here, and the joy of the morning is certain. The path is soft, the trees are still, the Spirit of truth is breathing with you, a quiet companion in the dark. You don't need to ask any more questions tonight. You only need to remain in the love that Jesus has described, a love that has already won. The city is far behind, the garden is near, the world is overcome. The high priest's prayer and the circle of love. As you settle into the deepest part of your rest, imagine that the walk through the night air has brought you to a place of profound stillness. The city lights of Jerusalem are now just a soft, distant glow behind you. You are standing at the edge of the Kidron Valley, where the old olive trees twist toward the stars, their silver leaves shimmering in the pale moonlight. Everything is quiet. The wind has died down to a mere whisper. Jesus stops. He doesn't look at his friends just yet. Instead, he looks up. Imagine him standing there, his face bathed in the soft light of the heavens. He lifts his eyes toward the vast dark expanse of the sky and begins to speak. His voice isn't loud, but it is steady and resonant, carrying a weight of peace that seems to settle over the entire earth. Father, he whispers, the hour has finally come. He speaks to the Father as if they are the only two beings in existence, sharing a conversation that began before the first star was ever lit. He talks of a glory that existed before the world was even a thought, a light and a love that have no beginning and no end. I have finished the work you gave me to do, he says, with a sense of quiet completion. Now, Father, bring me back to your side, to the glory we shared together before the foundation of the world. He defines life in a way that feels like a cooling drink to a thirsty soul. This is eternal life, simply to know you, the only true God, and to know me, whom you sent. Imagine that knowing, not as a list of facts, but as the deep, comfortable presence of a lifelong friend. Then Jesus turns his heart toward his friends, those who have walked the dusty roads with him. His voice grows even more tender, like a parent watching over a sleeping child. I am praying for them, he says. They belong to you, and you gave them to me. I am no longer going to be in the world in the same way, but they are still here. Holy Father, keep them safe. Protect them by the power of your name, so that they may be one, just as you and I are one. He asks that they might have his joy, not a fleeting happiness, but a full joy that lives deep inside them, even when the world is loud. He doesn't ask to take them out of the world, but to wrap them in a protection that keeps them from the shadows. Sanctify them in your truth, he prays. Your word is the truth. And then, in a moment of incredible beauty, Jesus reaches across the centuries. He isn't just praying for the men standing in the shadows of the olive trees. He is praying for you. I am not praying only for these few, he says, his voice carrying through the cool night air. I am praying for everyone who will ever believe in me because of their word. I pray that they all may be one. Just as you, Father, are in me and I am in you, I pray that they may also be in us. Imagine a great circle of love. The Father loves the Son loves you, and you are invited into the very center of that affection. I want them to be with me where I am, Jesus tells the Father. I want them to see the glory you gave me because you loved me before the world began. I have made your name known to them, and I will keep making it known so that the very same love you have for me may live inside of them, and that I may live in them too. The prayer ends, but the echo of it lingers in the air like a sweet fragrance. The connection is made. The bridge between heaven and earth is held fast by the words he has just spoken. As you drift off now, imagine those words as a protective canopy over your bed. You are part of that prayer. You are included in that circle of love. The Father and the Son are not far away. They have made their home with you, just as he promised. The stars are silent witnesses to the love he has for you. The olive trees are still. The valley is at peace. You are known. You are kept. You are loved with a love that existed before the world began. The garden shadows and the kingdom of truth. As you prepare to rest, imagine the deep, cool silence of the night. The prayer has ended, and a profound stillness has settled over the Kidron Valley. Your breathing is slow and rhythmic, like the soft rustle of the ancient olive trees swaying in the midnight breeze. Jesus and his friends crossed the small brook and entered a garden, a familiar sanctuary of twisted trunks and silver-green leaves. The air here was cool and damp, smelling of earth and night. This was a place of rest, but tonight the silence was broken by the flicker of lanterns and the orange glow of torches winding through the trees. Judas arrived not alone, but with a crowd of soldiers. Yet as the light of their torches spilled across the clearing, it was Jesus who stepped forward into the glow. He did not hide. He stood in the center of the peace he had created. "Who are you looking for?" he asked, his voice steady and calm. "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "I am he," Jesus said. At the sound of those words, the same eternal name he had spoken in the temple, the soldiers drew back, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of the peace that radiated from him. Even in this moment, Jesus was the shepherd. "If it is me you want," he said gently, "then let these others go." He was keeping his promise that of those given to him, not one would be lost. In the confusion, Peter reached for a sword, his heart racing, and struck out in defense, but Jesus stopped him, his voice a soothing command. "Put the sword away, Peter. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" He chose the path of peace, even when the world chose the path of force. The scene shifts now to a cold stone courtyard. Imagine the sound of a fire crackling, a small heap of glowing coals in the center of the dark space. Peter stood there, shivering in the chill of the early morning, warming his hands by the flames. As the firelight flickered across his face, someone asked, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" "I am not," Peter whispered. 3 times the question came, and 3 times amidst the shadows and the fear, Peter denied the connection. Then, through the crisp pre-dawn air, the sharp sound of a rooster's crow echoed across the city. It was a reminder of the words spoken in the upper room, a moment of human frailty met by the silent, enduring grace of the teacher. As the sun began to touch the high walls of the praetorium, Jesus was led before Pilate. The air was sharp and fresh with the coming day. Inside the quiet halls of the governor's palace, away from the noise of the crowd, the two men stood face to face. Pilate looked at the man before him, calm-bound, yet seemingly more free than anyone in the room. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked. Jesus' voice was like a slow-moving river, deep and clear. "My kingdom is not of this world," he explained. "If it were, my servants would be fighting, but my kingdom is from a different place." "So you are a king then?" "I was born for this," Jesus replied, "to testify to the truth, and everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." Pilate, caught between the politics of the world and the quiet power in front of him, asked the question that has echoed through the ages: what is truth? He walked out to the crowd declaring he found no fault in this man. He offered to release the King of Peace as part of the Passover custom, but the world, in its confusion, called for another. As you drift off now, imagine the contrast between the noise of the world and the silence of the King. The swords, the torches, and the shouting are all part of a world that is passing away. But the kingdom of truth is here, and it is quiet. You don't have to fight tonight. You don't have to warm yourself by a fire of anxiety. You can rest in the I Am who stood in the garden and protected his own. The truth is not a difficult puzzle to solve. It is a voice to listen to, a voice that says, you are safe, you are loved, and you are part of a kingdom that cannot be shaken. The lanterns have flickered out. The garden is once again still. The morning light is coming, but for now, the darkness is just a soft blanket, held by the one who knows the way. The finished work and the silent garden. Allow your body to feel very heavy now, as if the mattress is a warm, supportive cradle. The air is cool and still, and the sounds of the world have faded into a deep, rhythmic silence. This part of our story is solemn, but it is also filled with a profound final peace, the peace of a work that has been perfectly completed. The sun reached its highest point the 6th hour, casting a bright, clear light over the stone pavement called Gabbatha. Jesus stood there, wearing a crown of woven thorns and a robe of purple. Despite the noise of the crowd and the weight of the moment, he remained the calm center of the storm. Pilate brought him out before the people. "Behold the man truant," he said. But the world was restless. In the end, Pilate sat on the judgment seat and delivered him to be led away. Jesus went out carrying the heavy wood of the cross toward the hill called Golgotha. The air was thick with the scent of dust and heat. There, in the middle of two others, the King of Peace was lifted up. Even in this moment, he was thinking of those he loved. He looked down and saw his mother standing near the cross with his friend, the disciple he loved. With a voice that was soft but clear, he ensured they would be cared for. "Woman, behold your son," he said to Mary, and to his friend he said, "Behold your mother." In the midst of the greatest sacrifice, he was still the one providing a home, a family, and a place of belonging. As the afternoon wore on, a deep stillness began to settle over the hill. Jesus, knowing that every promise had been kept and every word of the ancient songs had been fulfilled, spoke a simple human need. "I am thirsty," he said. A sponge soaked in vinegar was held to his lips. Having received it, he took a breath, a long, final, and purposeful breath. He didn't cry out in defeat. He spoke a word of absolute victory. It is finished. He bowed his head, letting go of the tension of the world, and gave up his spirit. The work was done. The debt was paid. The bridge between heaven and earth was finally and firmly built. The evening drew in, the sky turning to shades of deep violet and charcoal. Because the Sabbath was approaching, a day of great rest, 2 men came forward to care for him. One was Joseph of Arimathea, who had followed Jesus quietly. The other was Nicodemus, the same man who had first visited Jesus under the cover of the night. Imagine them now in the gathering twilight. They brought 100 pounds of fragrant myrrh and aloes, scents that were rich, spicy, and deeply calming. With gentle, steady hands, they wrapped his body in clean linen cloths, layering the spices between the folds. There was no rush now. The city was quiet. The air was filled with the aroma of the burial spices. Near the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in that garden was a new tomb, carved into the cool, solid rock, where no one had ever been laid. They laid Jesus there, in the heart of the garden silence. Imagine the cool, smooth stone of the tomb and the absolute stillness of the garden as the sun set. The flowers in the garden closed their petals. The birds grew quiet in the trees. The heavy stone was rolled across the entrance, sealing in the peace of the finished work. As you drift off now, think of that garden. It is a place of perfect rest. The thirst of the day is over. The flogging of your worries and the thorns of your stress have been taken away. Everything that needed to be done has been done. It is finished. You don't have to carry anything anymore. You don't have to solve anything tonight. You can rest in the linen cloths of peace, surrounded by the fragrance of grace. The stone is in place, protecting your rest. The garden is quiet. The king is at peace. The morning light and the breakfast on the shore. Let your breath slow down to its most natural, effortless rhythm. Imagine the deep, cool blue of the very early morning, just before the first hint of gold touches the sky. The world is perfectly still, held in a moment of quiet expectation. The garden where we left the tomb is silent, the air fresh with the scent of dew on stone and the waking fragrance of wildflowers. On the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene walked through the garden. The air was cool against her skin. As she reached the tomb, she saw something that took her breath away. The heavy stone had been moved. It sat to the side, silent and massive, leaving the entrance open to the morning air. She ran to find Peter and the other disciple, her voice a hurried whisper in the dark. "They have taken the Lord, and we don't know where he is." The 2 men ran through the garden, their footsteps echoing on the path. The younger disciple reached the tomb first and leaned in. In the dim light, he saw the linen burial cloths, the ones Nicodemus and Joseph had so carefully wrapped, lying there empty. When Peter arrived, he walked straight into the tomb. He saw the cloths, and he saw the headpiece, neatly folded and set aside by itself. It was a scene of perfect quiet order. There was no rush here, no chaos, only a deep, settled peace. The disciples eventually went back to their homes, leaving the garden to its silence. But Mary stayed. She stood outside the tomb, her heart heavy. When she finally looked inside, she saw two messengers in white, sitting where the body had been. "Why are you weeping?" they asked, their voices like a soft breeze. "Because I don't know where he is," she replied. As she turned away, she saw a man standing in the garden. Through her tears and the dim morning light, she thought he was the gardener. "Sir," she said, "if you have carried him somewhere, just tell me where, and I will go to him." The man looked at her, his voice carrying a warmth that shattered the cold of the morning. He said just one word, "Mary." In that single word, she knew him. "Teacher," she cried. The morning was no longer dark. The light of the world was standing right there amidst the flowers and the dew. That evening, the disciples were gathered in a room, the doors locked tight against the worries of the world. The air was thick with tension. Suddenly, without a sound, Jesus stood in the center of the room. He didn't come with a lecture or a grand entrance. He came with a gift. "Peace be to you," he said. He showed them the marks of his love, and the room was instantly transformed from a place of fear to a place of joy. "Peace be to you, Wesest," he said again, his voice a steady anchor. "As the Father sent me, I am sending you." Then he breathed on them a long, slow, life-giving breath and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." A week later, he returned for Thomas, who had missed that first evening. Again, he stood in their midst and spoke that same blessing. "Peace be to you." He invited Thomas to see and to touch, replacing doubt with a deep, quiet belief. "Blessed are those," Jesus said, his words reaching across time to you, "who have not seen and yet have believed." The scene shifts now away from the city and back to the familiar waters of the Sea of Galilee. Imagine the sound of the waves lapping gently against the side of a wooden boat. Peter, Thomas, Nathanael, and the others were out on the water. It was night, and the sea was a vast, dark mirror reflecting the stars. They fished all night in the silence, but their nets came up empty. As the first light of dawn began to gray the horizon, they saw a figure standing on the beach, though they couldn't quite tell who it was. "Friends," the man called out across the water, "have you caught anything?" "No," they shouted back. "Cast your net on the right side of the boat," he suggested. They let the net fall. Suddenly, the water began to churn and boil with life. The net grew so heavy with fish they could hardly pull it in. The disciple whom Jesus loved looked at the shore and whispered, "It's the Lord." At those words, Peter didn't wait. He jumped into the cool, clear water and swam for the shore, while the others followed in the boat, dragging the net full of 153 large fish. When they reached the land, they found a beautiful sight. A small fire of coals was crackling softly on the sand. There was fish already cooking on the heat and fresh bread waiting. The air smelled of wood smoke and the sea. "Come and eat breakfast," Jesus said. Imagine sitting there on the sand, the morning sun warming your back. The world is quiet, save for the crackle of the fire and the gentle splash of the tide. Jesus took the bread and the fish and gave it to them, just as he always had. After they had eaten, Jesus spoke with Peter 3 times, asking him of his love, and 3 times commissioning him to feed my sheep. He was restoring his friend, replacing old shadows with a new bright purpose. "Follow me," Jesus said finally as they walked along the shore. Our story ends here on the beach at dawn. The book of John tells us that if every beautiful thing Jesus did were written down, the whole world wouldn't have room for the books. But you have what you need. You have the peace he left in the upper room. You have the light he brought to the garden, and you have the breakfast he prepared on the shore. The net is full and unbroken. The fire is warm. The morning has come. As you drift off, imagine yourself resting on that sand, the sound of the Galilee waves lulling you into a deep, restorative sleep. The shepherd is tending the sheep. The vine is holding the branches. The word is watching over the silence. The night is over. The work is finished. You are loved. Sleep now by the sea of peace.